Hi everyone, this is Carolyn Speaks, The State of Her World on Monday, March 29, 2021. And State of the World is no different than it was yesterday, not in good shape. Coronavirus is still with us. We had 558,000 fatalities as of today. People have passed away from this virus. We currently have 30,451,588 U.S. cases. Not good. People are still resisting having to wear a mask, practice social distancing, only go out when they have to, and only socialize with those in your immediate household. Wow. Now, I don't know if you remember, um, there's a Trump had a Dr. Birx, Birx, who was his one of his coronavirus advisors, and she had an interview where she said that um, the first 100,000 cases when the virus arrived, we had the first surge. She didn't think that could have been prevented, but all the fatalities after that they could have been prevented and mitigated against. They were preventable. And so basically, she admitted to lying. I guess politics is coming in. It's very, very sad that she did this. Now, so who do you trust? Who knows? Now, um, we have a situation, or we had a situation where a large cargo ship was blocking the Suez Canal and caused a shipping crisis. Now, the Suez Canal uh, said that this huge container ship blocking the canal has been refloated and is on the move. It had been stuck for, I think, almost a week. 200,000-ton ship, the Evergreen, got stuck on March 23rd, blocking one of the world's most important trade routes, which is used for about 12% of all global trade. The impact of the canal shutdown has raised new questions about global trade practices, including the reliance on massive cargo ships, the conditions of workers on the vessels, and environmental degradation. As years have gone by, the ships have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, says Linda Khalili, professor of international politics at Queen Mary University of London. She notes that it was an earlier closure of the canal during the Suez Crisis in the 1950s that led shipping companies to build ever larger megaships like the Evergreen. Well, we have this big one, 200,000 tons, and that definitely is not doing anyone any favors. So, what are we going to do about that? I don't know. But capitalism is always out to make a buck, and the conditions of the workers who work on these ships, the working conditions are very poor. They have very highly skilled people to actually navigate the ships, actually control the ship's movements, but the people below them are not highly skilled, and they don't have that big a crew, and they tend to come from the Philippines, from the South Asia, I guess, and then the skilled people seem to come from uh, they're European. So anyway, so the ship has been freed, but it's not going too well. They probably lost a lot of money and been complaining for a long time. Now, what else is new? Burmese forces kill over 100 people in deadliest day of post-coup crackdown. Uh, Burma was freed. Burma was a colony of the British, and then they got their freedom after World War II, and the British turned the country over to the military in Burma, and then the military agreed to give uh, civilian rule to the people of Burma, and a few years ago, and then they took control of the country back in a coup early last month. In Burma, human rights groups say at least 114 people, including children, were killed Saturday as soldiers opened fire on civilians protesting against military rule in dozens of cities and towns across the country. It was the deadliest crackdown yet on protests demanding a reversal to the February 1st coup, which toppled Burma's democratically elected civilian government. On Sunday, Burmese troops fired on a funeral service for a 20-year-old student protester killed a day earlier near the commercial capital of Rangoon. The attacks drew condemnation from the European Union, United States, UK, and Germany, with UN Special Reporter for Burma accusing the military regime of mass murder. Meanwhile, an estimated 3,000 people have fled southeastern Burma into Thailand after the Burmese military bombed areas controlled by the Karen ethnic minority group. At least 459 people, including at least 35 children, have been killed since the start of protests, including, according to rights groups. Now, I know that the minority group in Burma is the Rohingya, who are Muslims. Burma is basically a Buddhist country, and now we have a new minority called the Karen ethnic minority group. So in Burma, I think the British have what on their hands. They're the ones who controlled Burma because of the oil, and they are letting the military get away with installing a military government. Very sad. Very, very sad. So, what's that all about? Now, more states open up vaccine eligibility as cases rise in more than half of the U.S. states. 6 more states are opening up COVID-19 vaccine eligibility to anyone 16 or over today. Kansas, Louisiana, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, and Texas. At least 3 other states will do the same this week. Over 36% of U.S. adults have now received at least 1 dose of the vaccine. Officials are rushing to get shots in as many arms as possible, as over 24 states report an increase of at least 10% in new cases compared to the previous week. New York and New Jersey, once the epicenter of the virus, once again are leading in new infections. Now, Dr. Deborah Birx, former President Trump's coronavirus coordinator, told CNN hundreds of thousands of U.S. COVID deaths may have been preventable. Says there are about 100,000 deaths that came from that original surge. All of the rest of them, in my mind, could have been mitigated or decreased substantially. Nearly 550,000 deaths have been reported in the U.S., by far the highest death toll in the world. 550,000, actually, it's 552,000 as of today from what I've read. Very sad. Dr. Birx, very disappointed in you. Very, very sad. Very, very, very sad situation. All right, now what else is new? The World Health Organization, WHO, warns coronavirus on the rise in African countries as vaccinations remain lowest in the world. The World Health Organization warns COVID-19 cases are on the rise in at least 12 African nations, and that a third wave could overwhelm already vulnerable health systems. South Africa has suffered the greatest toll, with over 52,000 fatalities and 1.5 million cases. Less than 1% of people living on the African continent have received coronavirus vaccines. Getting back to colonization again, the British controlled a lot. Getting back to colonialism again, the British actually controlled a lot of Africa. Had colonies in South Africa, Tanzania, Rhodesia, Kenya, and maybe other places, and they just had an apartheid system. You weren't European and white, then you were second-class citizen, similar to our slavery system here and apartheid system here. So, anyway, I wonder what the British are doing to help the African countries. Who knows? But that's the way it is. That's the way it is. Now, there's a suicide bombing attacks Catholic Church Mass in Indonesia. In Indonesia, a pair of suicide bombers attacked a Catholic church Sunday in the city of Makassar, injuring 20 people at a Palm Sunday Mass, marking the start of the Holy Week leading up to Easter. No group has claimed responsibility, but a senior police officer blamed a group that's pledged allegiance to ISIS and was implicated in a string of deadly suicide bombings on Indonesian churches in 2018. Isn't that nice? The world is still having problems. Religion. Okay. Now, what else is happening? Also, dozens were killed in attacks in Mozambique's Cabo Delgado province. In northern Mozambique, dozens of people are dead and thousands more displaced after an armed group converged on the town of Palma in Cabo Delgado province. The fighters assaulted a military barracks, opened fire on civilians, set fire to buildings, and hunted down government officials. Mozambique's military blamed an ISIS-aligned group for the attacks. Since 2017, fighting in northern Mozambique has left thousands dead and some 700,000 people displaced. Isn't that nice? Islam, Christianity, no one's getting along. That's really too bad that people are still fighting. And Mozambique, who controlled Mozambique? What colonial power? Now, Iran and China signed a 25-year, $400 billion strategic deal. Iran and China have signed an economic and security cooperation deal that will see China invest $400 billion in Iran over the next quarter century, 25 years, in exchange for regular deliveries of oil. The two nations will also set up an Iranian-Chinese bank that will help Iran circumvent U.S. sanctions that have largely cut it off from global banking systems. U.S. sanctions were imposed after President Trump unilaterally pulled out of the landmark 2015 Iran nuclear deal. Mistake. Big mistake to do that. But it was done. And so what can we do about it? I don't know. But we definitely have to do something. Now, so that's just some of the stories, things happening in the world. Capitalism without accountability is the root of Suez Canal shipping crisis. Robin D.G. Kelley says, Amazon Union Drive builds on decades of black radical labor activism in Alabama. And Robin D.G. Kelley also talks about the Derek Chauvin murder trial, reparations in Everson, and Cornel West tenure fight. So a lot of things been happening. So you have to wear a mask, only go out when you have to, and only socialize with those in your immediate household. And practice social distancing. And Amazon, hopefully the workers will win. Amazon Union Drive is in, I think it's Bessemer, Alabama. Hopefully the workers win and they'll have a better life. I find it hard to believe that Jeff Bezos is the owner of the Washington Post, a very liberal, progressive newspaper, and yet he is treating his Amazon employees as slaves. Very unfortunate. Okay, now that's it. That's the news for today. A lot of news. Now, I'd like to sing a little song. It's an old song. It's called He. He can turn the tides and calm the angry sea. He alone decides your righteous symphony. He alone can hear A child's first prayer, he da 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 da. I believe for every drop of rain that falls, a flower grows. I believe that someone in the great somewhere hears every word. Every time I hear a newborn baby cry, or touch a leaf, or see the sky, then I know why I believe. Okay, that's it. I cheated, did 2 songs. He and I believe, 2 very old songs, but very nice songs. Thank you for joining us this evening of Monday, March 29, 2021. Hope you'll be back with us again tomorrow evening for another meeting of Carolyn Speaks the State of the World. And remember, stay safe. Take care of each other. Take care of yourself. And remember, kindness goes a long way. Kindness goes a very long way. Thank you. Good night.